Hello and welcome. This session highlights unique multimodal learning about immigration in the United States, including students role-taking in a tabletop experience designed for a particular group with which they likely do not identify as, and connecting this gameplay experience with related readings and other forms of media. Toma el Paso, or Make a Move, is a tabletop game for which I, Leanne Tran, Assistant Professor of Games and Design at DePaul University, led the design with the purpose of helping unaccompanied immigrant minors, or UIMs, navigate the shelter release process when in U.S. government custody. Today you will hear from myself and Dr. Kate Moran, who uses the game in a course she co-teaches with Dr. Tori Hester at St. Louis University. We will share strategies for using Toma in college-level immigration courses, combining student analysis of gameplay with assigned texts and media to enable richer reflection on immigration. But we also will share precisely why a game that wasn't designed for this context enhances the classroom conversation and student reflections about immigration in the U.S. This project originated when an immigration lawyer emailed the Games for Change listserv about designing games for immigrant youth. I responded to that message, and now today, I share with you not just about how this game was implemented in immigration shelters, but also unexpected and extremely positive outcomes when used in a college classroom. I designed the game as my MFA thesis at Parsons, which was a co-design in consultation with immigration lawyers and shelter staff, and play-tested with immigrant youth, including those formerly living in such a shelter, to ensure it was communicating at a level of detail that was also providing accurate information across most shelter experiences. Rather than focus too much on factual information, which games are not always great at communicating, the mechanics of the game very much are the message. It's not really about skill, and more about bridging the knowledge gap about the release process, and learning the importance of follow-up. You get bonuses when meeting with a case manager, and exerting patience. Some requirements will take a while, and there's not much you can do about that. The game is also designed primarily for ages 10 to 17, and is both simple and complicated. It is a simplified version of the UIMs reality, and all the considerations and factors that go into being approved for shelter release. At the same time, the system is much too complicated for such young people to have to experience, especially without the support of their family. After finishing my thesis, I started a professorship at University of Miami, and a year later I connected with a colleague, Dr. Etione Alrondo, who was leading ICANN, Immigrant Children's Affirmative Network, and needed to revamp the curriculum due to changes in how UIM cases were being processed by the government. Our connection was fortuitously timed as Toma el Paso perfectly filled a missing component to their new Book of Life curriculum. This was the exact context the game was designed for, and a few years later I discovered another meaningful use case in a college-level classroom. There were even more unexpected outcomes during the early pandemic when students brought the game home into their homes and not only played but also had rich conversations about immigration with their families as a result.
I'm Kate Moran. I'm an Associate Professor of American Studies at St. Louis University. I co-teach a course here on immigration and U.S. history and culture with my colleague, the historian Tori Hester. And I'm going to talk about our experience using Toma el Paso in the classroom. I initially found Toma through a simple Google search, but Professor Hester and I have found it to be an incredibly valuable teaching tool for three main reasons. First, there's the very fact that the game even exists. This itself presents a teachable moment. Students play a game they know is designed because there are so many migrant youth in detention who need ways to learn about the complex system in which they find themselves. Being introduced to Toma makes students think about what it means that a game like this is needed. Second, the game allows us to talk about something that often gets buried in conversations on high-level law and policy, the way the detention system looks and acts on the ground. Students have spoken about how different aspects of the game made them frustrated, particularly how difficult it is to constantly have to chase a moving caseworker. This led to a discussion about the importance of caseworkers for those in detention and about their scarcity in institutions that are both bureaucratically complex and under-resourced. Students have also talked about how the game felt unpredictable to them. Even if they did what they were supposed to do, there was no guarantee of a good outcome, at least not quickly. This led to a discussion about the tension between the specific steps that UIMs must take, on the one hand, and how limited their ability is to control what happens to them, on the other. Third, Playing Toma in the classroom is valuable precisely because it is not designed to be played in a classroom. I'll explain. Games designed to be played in the classroom often rely on a model in which students are encouraged to imagine themselves as other people. For example, in a U.S. history class, students might be asked to imagine themselves as soldiers in the Second World War or abolitionists on the Underground Railroad. These games can be great when done well, but they have some risks. They risk encouraging students to overestimate how much a classroom exercise can mimic someone else's experience, and they risk discouraging students from thinking through their own subject positions in relation to the topic being taught. With Toma, however, students always know that the game is meant to be played by people in a different place. The game encourages empathy and knowledge through experience, but it does so without sacrificing intellectual humility and self-reflexivity. In short, Toma el Paso became a valuable part of our classroom because the very existence of a board game for UIMs surprises students and presents a teachable moment. The game brings some of the ground-level realities of the U.S. detention system to light, and the game makes students think about what UIM's experience might be like without attempting to mimic those experiences. If you'd like to learn more about our students' experience with Toma, we've linked on this slide to an article published in our university newsletter.
In designing Toma el Paso, I realized that community members often wanted to help immigrant youth but often weren't sure how. This led to the creation of Guia Americana, or immigrangames.com, which is how Dr. Moran found the game. The current and future resources on this website may be of use for your education goals, whether you are a college professor or student, school teacher, pro bono lawyer, or supportive community member. At the highlighted link, we've comprised a more comprehensive but still preliminary resource list of readings and videos, which we have used in conjunction with Toma el Paso in the classroom at both St. Louis University as well as at DePaul University in an honors capstone dedicated to immigration in the U.S. In spring 2021, Dr. Alderondo, founder of ICANN, and I spoke with DePaul students after they had played Toma about UIMs, referencing Dr. Etienne Alderondo's decades of experience and related assigned readings he'd co-authored, as well as the period in which ICANN used the game as part of their Book of Life curriculum. DePaul students shared similar insights as the St. Louis students. They couldn't believe how much challenge and certainty such young people have to face on their own. To conclude, we recommend educators to look for games designed for the situations you are teaching about, and for designers to consider, when co-designing such games, to also consider how to broaden reach beyond the primary context. Also, consider how to make it easy for secondary audiences to search and find it, like a descriptive URL, such as immigrangames.com. Thank you for joining us, and please feel free to connect with us.